And we're looking forward to our new episode, new series, new journey that we're going to be starting in tonight with Terry. And I want to welcome everybody with us listening via Power of Faith Radio. Those of you listening tonight via a Simple Walk Facebook page, listen, you can share this video with all your social media platform, or maybe you're not watching live, but you're watching recording. You can share it with your social media platforms. Those of you watching and going to watch in B'nai Noach Fellowship, we thank you so much. Please ask questions. Give us a thumbs up. And as always, it's brought to you by Outreach Noah. You can go to Outreach Noah YouTube and just simply type in Outreach Noah. We'll come up and subscribe. Hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. Go ahead and give us a thumbs up, and we'll greatly appreciate it. You can also share those videos with all your social media platforms. And you can visit outreachnoah.com or email us outreachnoah@gmail.com. Did I get all that in this time, Terry?
I think you got it all in. It's become a mouthful, hasn't it?
It's become a mouthful. Yes. So, Terry, if you will greet everybody, I'll get ready for our Tzedakah time tonight, and we'll get right into the class.
All righty. Can you hear me okay? I'm trying to make sure.
That sounds
Get my mic set tonight here. All righty. Greetings, everyone. And again, welcome to our Outreach Noah class. As Scotty has said, we're going to begin our book study of the 7 gates of righteous knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and faith for all righteous Gentiles. We'll get started into that tonight. I'm going to have a little bit of an introduction into that tonight, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want to greet everyone here in the Zoom room. We got Scotty and Thomas and Amuela, Veronica, Bob, and Ronald, and Annie, Scotty's better half. And again, if anytime any of y'all want to join us, you can, it's free, to come on in and join us here in the live Zoom room. The links are in Simple Walk, B'nai Noach Fellowship, Australia, New Zealand Facebook page. All the links are there if you want to come into the Zoom room. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to, but you're welcome to come on in, and we'll let you in and just be part of the live class right here in the Zoom and everything. Scotty, you about ready?
I am ready. I think Veronica shares that as well on a simple. Simply
Noahide, right?
Yeah, and I've noticed Veronica's the Facebook page of Simply Noahide is really growing.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised because I just went over 800. I mean,
wow.
I'm shocked. I know, right?
They're all wanting to know the author of the new book. Let's see. Well, that book's in there. You got the book there handy. There it is, Simply Noahide. So Veronica Port, our very own, is the author of that book. She's working on a new book right now. I think she's working on a new book. So
kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So
we're trying to encourage her to do that.
Yeah. So all right. Okay, we're going to get down to our Tzedakah time tonight, and we appreciate everybody who has participated in our Tzedakah time, and so we will get right into that to give Terry plenty of time to do the introduction tonight. We always give tzedakah for our teacher, Terry and I's teacher, Pesach, and his wife, Shira Sherbo. We always give tzedakah for them. Also, we're giving tzedakah tonight. We have Clifford Hoole still on our tzedakah list. Also, Robin Wade. We have Robin Wade. She's on our tzedakah list tonight. And William Lyons is on our tzedakah list tonight, giving tzedakah for William Lyons. And also, Amuela, here's your dollar. Somebody sends that in for you. So this is your dollar going into the tzedakah time, as well as Thomas Schaus. This is your dollar going into the tzedakah, and as well Veronica Port. Veronica, they always send in something for you as well. So let me see where I got to. Okay, now we got Wendy Shepherd. Wendy Shepherd is still on our tzedakah list tonight, and Warwick Marshall. I knew I would get that straight. We got Warwick is still on our tzedakah list tonight. Also, Hope Ann. Hope Ann and the family is on our tzedakah list tonight, as well as Michael Stinik. He's on our tzedakah list tonight. And Mary Parsons. We always have Mary on our tzedakah list. Now, this week, Wendell Parsons, we have him on our tzedakah list as well. He was going to do a testimonial about Mary, and he got sick over the past holiday, and so he had to postpone, but he will be here next week, and if everything goes okay, and give us that testimony about Mary, his wife. You don't want to miss that. And also Carol St. George, we have her on our tzedakah list tonight. Now we want to cover our blessed memory. We're giving this tzedakah in the merit of first Tony Glover. Tony Glover. We're giving tzedakah, blessed memory tzedakah, giving this tzedakah in the merit of Tony Glover, and then also giving tzedakah tonight, blessed memory of Rabbi Aaron Perry, giving tzedakah for blessed memory for the merit of Rabbi Aaron Perry. Would you help me pray tonight?
Hey, Scotty.
Yes. Oh, you sent me one, and I apologize, Terry.
Oh, no. It's not a problem. I had a coworker pass away this morning. He'd been sick. It hit him a month ago. It hit him, and they thought he just had pneumonia, and they took about 2.5 liters of fluid off of his lung. Turned out to be stage 4 pancreas cancer. He's only in his 30s.
Wow.
And,
wow. And what was his name, Terry?
His name is Zach Lynn.
Zach Lynn.
Zach Lynn. And one of my other co-workers that was with him today, they grew up together. They were childhood friends. They grew up, together. But anyhow, it's kind of hit our place there at work, kind of hard, especially Zach was one of these people. I don't think he had an enemy. Everybody enjoyed loving. Matter of fact, he started help training me in my new position a little over a month ago, and up at Toyota when I had to go work up there on Saturdays. I'd sit with him and stuff. He was just a real good guy, all around guy. So yeah, about 3:30 this morning, he passed away with pancreas cancer.
So that's blessed memory tzedakah.
Blessed memory for them. And remember his son. He had just keep his son in prayer. I've met his son like twice. I can't remember. He's a young boy, but he loved his dad. I mean, he'd bring him to work and he'd go, "I love you, Dad." And I know it's probably messed him. Just keep Zach and his children and family and friends in prayer, because they're going through a real hard time.
Okay, let's do remember that. Help us pray, would you? Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayer with compassion and favor, for you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. Our King, do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you ready to get started?
We're going to try.
Introduction. I'm going to mute my mic and get you on introduction.
Now, Scotty, we're going to be going back, discussing some of this too to help.
Okay.
The book and everything. Like, how we do our videos.
Yes.
Anyway, if anybody else wants to chime in, as we go. But tonight, what I'm going to do, you got me on speaker.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on there, but real quick, I want to let everybody now. You can also get this book through Amazon through the Kindle. I don't want to give too much of a plug here, but you can get it through Kindle, and that's how I'm going to be reading tonight. There, okay, I'm going to put you on speaker view, Terry.
There you go. And I put it up on the Facebook groups, and I think I put the link. Did I put the link where you can get it. Can't remember. I may have put the Amazon link. I can't remember. I know I put the book up there last week.
I think Amuela and Ronald as well has shared the how to get the book a couple of different
Right, you can get the. I was asked by someone here last week. You can get the Kindle edition. Matter of fact, that's how it came out first. I started out with the Kindle edition, and then they came out with the paperback. I got it, and then a lot of us, as we studied it a couple of times, was begging for the hard copy because it kind of holds up to, constant use. And this is a book that, I've known some people that's gone through this already 3 or 4 times. So anyhow, tonight we're going to begin our book study. What we're going to do is we're just going to read the book and discuss it, read it and discuss it as we go through there, or through it. The 7 Gates of Righteous Knowledge, Spiritual Knowledge and Faith for All Righteous Gentiles by Rabbi Moshe Weiner and Dr. Michael Schulman of asknoah.com, or is it .org? I think it's .com. Tonight, this weekend, as I was kind of going over things, I got to looking at it, and I'm just going to jump right in with the preface and just start with that. And tonight, I do want to get through the prefaces as part of the, tonight's part 1. But as I got to looking at it, and I looked at the title, and I know we've got quite a few, newer people that's kind of messaged Scotty and I and started following along, and maybe haven't watched a lot of our classes and been a part of it. So I wanted to step back as far apart as an introduction, because this term, it may not be familiar with a lot of people, at least, saying it. And that is the term righteous Gentile. This is the book for us, not the Jewish people. This is a book written by the Rabbi Weiner for the non-Jewish people, but righteous Gentile. And I wanted to cover a little bit about that. We're not going to get totally into. Scotty and I has got some videos on righteousness. If you want to go check those out, they're going to be underneath our playlist, Sacred Odyssey. They're going to be a couple years old. We need to probably update those, Scotty, since it's been a while since we've done them. But I want to talk a little bit tonight about what is a righteous Gentile before we get into this, because it's important as we get into this book and begin to learn what a righteous Gentile is, because that's not really, the term is not really used a lot in the Western religious circles. We're going to begin with Genesis chapter 6:9. If you got your notepad and things, you might want to jot these down. I'm just kind of written down some notes here, kind of as an introduction. But Genesis chapter 6:9 is a key verse. It is one of our key verses for us. It says that these are the offspring, or the products, of Noah. Noah, a righteous man, he was morally pure in his generations. Noah walked with God. This is a very important key verse for us. Rabbi Hirsch noted in his discussion on this passage, he tells us, mankind is about to perish. The end of all flesh had come before the Creator. All mankind was about to perish. Noah, as a second Adam, is to stand at the head of a new mankind. Noah is our patriarch. You'll hear a lot about patriarchs when you're reading the Torah, and especially among our Jewish brothers and sisters with Abraham. Abraham is the patriarch for the Jewish people. God chose Abraham, and then through one of his children, Isaac, that particular line. He had many other children, but the line through Isaac became who we call the Jewish people today, or Israel. But Noah is the patriarch for the nations. His example that he was righteous, he was moral. This is what our 7 laws is all about, is about righteousness and morality and ethics. And we see that he walked with God. Genesis chapter 6 and verse 9 does not start out with the physical offspring of Noah. You'll see that comes later. This scripture points out that his first offspring, his very first product, was himself, because it says that these are the offsprings of Noah. And then it says, then in Hebrew it says Noach. Noach was a righteous man. So scripture points out that the very first offspring of Noah was himself. This was his very first product, was himself. The sages of Israel infers from this point, anytime you have two words like Noach, Noach together, mentioned together, the Creator was pointing something out. And that happens several times through the Torah, that this happens when you have a repetition of a word together. The sages infers that the main product of Noah was himself, and that the primary product of a person, you and I, the very first yields of our labor is our character. And that's one of the things we're going to be learning a lot about as we go through this book. That's why I wanted to go through this as a little introduction. So the sages of Israel infers that the primary product of a person is his character. I wanted to read just a tad bit from this book called Noah, the Flood and the Failure of Man, according to the Midrash Rabbah. So the Midrash Rabbah, Genesis, has a lot to say about this, and I just wanted to read a little about this passage. The Midrash says that these are the offsprings of Noah. Noah, as we said, is a righteous man, morally pure in his generations. He walked with God. Says the Midrash says, surely Scripture should have written that these are the offspring of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, but it didn't. It comes later. It says, one would have expected that this statement saying that these are the generations of Noah, it's Toledos, it can be translated as generation, product, and offspring. All of those can be the translation of that word. But it says that these are the generations of Noah. It says should be followed by the names of Shem, his oldest son. However, the text instead praises Noah by having his name appear twice, one after another, in the actual statement that follow. It says the importance of this lesson from the Midrash is that character is the most important aspect of a human personality. It is more important than progeny, more important than wealth, more important than leadership and power. This is what we learned from in Genesis chapter 6-9. When it says about Noah that he was righteous and he was morally pure, it is telling us something about him of the greatest possible importance, because he was truly righteous and moral. It follows that he was able to control his own desires and passions and dedicate them to higher principles. This gave him an importance in the world at large and rendered him as a model to be followed. This should be the goal and the motivation of every human being. Moral character should be the main goal in education, and everything should be done to produce a student who will emerge as a citizen with high moral principles. Rabbi Hirsch notes also, when we read here where it says that Noah, a righteous man, he was and he was morally pure. In the Hebrew, it says Ish Tzadik Tamim, a righteous and moral pure man. Rabbi Hirsch says these are the character traits by virtue of which in Genesis chapter 6:8, Noah found favor in the eyes of God, and in which God chose as the basis for all new mankind, the whole new mankind that was going to come after him. This was to be the pattern. Righteousness, morality was the ways that we would walk with God, through righteousness and morality. The Creator is the one who called Noah righteous and moral. He's the one that told, some 2,000 years later, would be telling Moses on Mount Sinai to write this down. And also, technically, Noah is the only one in the Torah that is called righteous by God. There are other righteous men, but to actually have that said and written about them, Noah was the only one that has that specific designation. So this stands as a major important passage for all of mankind, as Noah would become the new Adam. And you see that the Creator could have just brought him through the flood, but he didn't. He brought him with his family, and his family's not listed as righteous. And so one of the lessons we learn from this is that, many times within our own families, with our own marriages, Scotty and I get questions all the time. Well, my husband is like this, my wife is like this, talking about spiritually, nothing evil or bad, but they're on two different spiritual levels. And some people want to get divorced over these issues, but yet the Creator could have chosen to create Noah another wife on the other side of the flood, but he didn't. He brought his wife and his children and their wives with him. And a big reason for that the sages teaches us is that if the Creator had destroyed his family, it would have tormented Noah. And the Creator would not do that. So if you're in a marriage specifically, and your children, which a lot of us have that are kind of on a different level or not even on a level at all than from where you're at, understand that the Creator has everything in control. We don't divorce our families, get rid of our families because we think they're sinners, or maybe they're at on a different kind of, spiritual level at the time. We work with what we have, and the Creator, he brought them all together through the flood. But he is the one who called Noah righteous. In Jonah chapter 3:10, it says, and God saw their deeds, that they had repented of their evil ways. What we're seeing here is what it is to do righteous acts. First, we see that Noah found favor in the eyes of God. What he did was righteousness, and what he did was morality. God saw it. It has nothing to do with belief. Belief is a part of it, but not as much as a part of it is doing righteousness and morality. He found favor in God's eyes through his righteousness and morality, and that caused him to walk with God. In Jonah, Nineveh was seeing that they had changed their deeds when it came to theft. And God forgave them and didn't bring about the evil decree. Ezekiel 18:22b. Through his Righteousness, talking about when an evil man repents and begins to do what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, to do tzedakah and mishpat, justice and righteousness. It says, through his righteousness that he has done, he shall live. Again, the wicked man is not forgiven by his belief. He's forgiven by the righteous works that he does and by putting away the evil transgression. In Proverbs chapter 11, I know I'm kind of going through this a little bit because I want to get into the book, but I just want to kind of drop a little bit here, information about what is, the righteous Gentile, because it is in the title of the book. And also it's the theme of what we're going to be studying tonight, today, wherever you're at, and in the future weeks to come. Proverbs 11, verse 30. Proverbs 11, verse 30. It says, the fruit of the righteous one is a tree of life. The fruit of the righteous one is a tree of life. Rashi states that in discussing this passage, the reward for the deeds of the righteous is a tree of life for the world. A righteous person becomes a tree of life for the world. Mitsudas says the deeds of the righteous are like a tree that brings life to the world. So he says the same thing. And then Rabbi Hirsch notes, he says, something beneficial grows from his every deed, giving life to his surroundings. Just as a tree produces fruit, so should we produce good deeds and the observance of commandments, which are the true fruits of the moral and ethical life. Good deeds, or the right deeds, and the observance of the commandments are the fruits of the moral and ethical life, which becomes a tree of life to those around us, to our communities, to our families. When we hear about the commandments again, that what we are talking about, the commandments that Noah observed that made him righteous in the eyes of God, was the six of them that came down from Adam to him personally. The prohibition of idolatry, prohibition of blasphemy, prohibition of murder, prohibition of theft, prohibition of forbidden sexual relations. All of that was going on before the flood. It said that their way had become corrupted. The way is the way you walk with the Creator and also justice. He walked in justice. Every one of these were the failures of all mankind before the flood. There was idolatry, there was blasphemy, there was murder, there was theft, and there was all kinds of weird sexual things going on that produced all kinds of weird contraptions, if you want to call it. I mean, there were some weird animals, things and human beings that had to be destroyed. They were impure. And of course, all of this went on because the justice system they had was non-existence. And so these were the sixth and the seventh commandment that we are given was given to Noah after the flood about not eating meat taken from a living animal, which we learned about how to care for the other life, life that's on the planet itself through our environmental. We get a lot of our environmental laws, I guess you could say, or responsibilities and obligations through that one. Scotty, before I get into the book, anything? Because I don't want to just jump. I don't want to run through this. We got plenty of time.
Okay. A couple of different things. What is the difference between grace and favor?
Well, actually, the word there, it's interesting that Noah found favor, and it's also translated as grace in the eyes of God. It's interesting. Noah's name is Nun Het. And favor here spelled as Het Noon. Noah's name spelled backwards.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay.
And this grace is that you're looking at, like I said, when we look at Jonah chapter 3 and verse 10, when he said he relented on what he was going to do about destroying the city, he said he saw their deeds. He saw their deeds and that they had changed from their evil ways. And that brought favor in God's eyes. When the righteous man or the wicked man puts away his transgressions that he has done, it doesn't say he's put away his beliefs at this time. Thoughts do enter in on it later, but right here when we're dealing with Ezekiel chapter 18, his actions that was wrong that he put away, and he began to do what was right, justice and charity, or not justice and charity, but justice and righteousness. It says that he is forgiven. God, he lives by the righteousness that he did. Grace and the grace and the favor that we have here with Noah and with Nineveh and with Exodus chapter 18 is what God has seen you doing brought the favor of God.
That was my next question. Was it the actions?
It was the actions.
Favor upon him.
It was the actions. There's the Torah and the prophets are full of God's instructions on what we're doing. Nowhere does he say, believe in me. Nowhere does faith have anything to do really with like the righteousness that a lot of people think about. Because actually the Hebrew word that's translated as faith, especially when you see it there in the story of Abraham, because I think it says, his I guess his belief was considered faith unto him, but the faith there is emunah teka, and emunah is translated in English as faith, but it does not mean the faith that you understand in English. It's faithfully doing. Abraham faithfully did. And because he faithfully did, it was counted unto him as righteousness. So it's a faithfulness in what you're doing. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay. So these actions of Noah, so I've often wondered this, and somebody asked the question, so I'm going to bring it up. Was Noah, now I'm trying to figure out how to present this in the religious manner that the question was asked. Okay. Was Noah doing the actions in order to find favor from the Lord, or was it did his just everyday actions that he normally did?
He lived a righteous and moral life, and that living that way, it says the third thing is that he walked with the Creator.
Yeah. He
walked with God. He walked with God in his everyday life, the way he treated everyone around him, his morality. And it says he was morally perfect within his generation. That generation was horrible. And the sages have a lot to say about that, because they kind of compare other people, like with Abraham and his generations, how Noah would have been. We have to understand that the morality was so, and the ethics were so horrible at the time of the flood that the earth had to be cleansed. They polluted the earth to the point that God had to technically he had to pull the string and flush it. He had to flush that wickedness off. And it was, and Noah was morally pure in his generation, means it was so bad. You know, what morality he had was a beacon light that stood out. And it says that he found favor in God's eyes. And with finding favor in God's eyes, it's what God's, I mean, God doesn't have eyes like us. He has no form. And he uses, you know, human terminology so we can understand it. But again, it's like in the reason why I want to bring up Nineveh, it was what God saw in Noah that brought the favor. It was what God saw in the deeds of Nineveh that brought, you know, his acceptance of their repentance.
So I want to make one more statement on that. And I don't remember whether you and I have discussed this in past times, but for some reason I always just use this statement. Even the dimmest light shines bright in a dark world.
Yeah, I mean, I actually did a what do you call that? A you know, a very optical object lesson like that one time in a I guess Bible, you call it a Bible class. At one time I was asked to do, and it was in a room that had no windows. And when everybody came in, I had a candle on their table. And when we turned the lights out, it was black. It was black, dark. It was dark. And I lit my candle. And in that room with one candle lit and pitch black, you could see the faces of everyone there, but it was dark. And then I went up to the first table and then I touched their candle. Now the both of us, our candles were lit, and now the room was brighter. And we went through and we had about 15 people there. And we went through and all of us had, you know, these little birthday type cake candles. And we all had them all lit, and it lit up the whole room. But even when the room was totally dark with one candle, you could see the faces. And my lesson was like this. When you're righteous, you become a tree of life for the world. And that was an example with these candles. The one candle allowed everyone to see. And then when someone else followed the example of morality, more people, you could see more clear and more clear and more clear as more people joined in. And this is what the message of observing the 7 laws of Noah for the non-Jewish peoples of the world. Our job is to settle the earth. Israel is the priest. Was given one piece of land over there. We are giving the world. Our job is to establish moral and ethical communities. And the more people that live moral and ethical lives, the greater the society becomes, the neighborhood, the society, the city, the state, the nation, the world. And we've got a perfect example of what's going on in the world right now in all of our countries. The more wickedness that is growing on, the more darker we have become.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the opposite. We have exactly the opposite that's going on in our world today with everything that's going on. And that's why it's so important for those of us, the nations, to study things like this and learn to become a righteous Gentile so that you can become a tree of life in your part of the world.
Yep. Yep. All right, Terry, I'm going to put you back on speaker view.
All right. All right. Let's see here. Opening up the book, I'm not going to go through all the table of contents or anything, but I am going to go through the title page here, The 7 Gates of Righteous Knowledge, a compendium of spiritual knowledge and faith for the what's called the Noahide movement and all righteous Gentiles. And the Noahide movement basically means, Noahide means the son is the family of Noah. It comes from the Hebrew word B'nai Noach, which is in the Torah. The B'nai Noach are the children of Noah, and that's who we are. We are the children of Noah. We are a movement of people who have come back to our birthright. We talked about birthright when we were talking about Cain the other day. Cain had a firstborn birthright. Well, each one of us has a birthright too, and that is the purity that we are born with at birth. And we're returning when we repent of our sins, as we talked about a few weeks ago, we begin making steps back toward that purity. And we are a movement of people that are trying to tell the world, let's wake up, let's walk back toward purity instead of away from purity, where the world is going. So again, this is by Rabbi Moshe Weiner of Jerusalem, who the original book was all written in complete Hebrew. We covered the divine code when we were going through the different commandments there. In Hebrew, it's called the Sheva Mitzvos Hashem, or the divine code, as it is in English. But in English, it means the seven commandments of the Creator to us, to the human race. And then by Dr. Michael Schulman of AskNoah.com. I'm going to go over to page 5 in the preface. It says, in Tractate Sota 10b, and in the Midrash Genesis Rabbah, which I read just a little bit while ago from the Genesis Midrash Rabbah, chapter 54, the sages explain of the verses in Genesis chapter 21, verse 33 in the following way. Abraham planted an ashel in Beersheba, and there he proclaimed the name of God, God of the universe. Abraham planted an ashel in Beersheba. What is this ashel? Reish Lakish said, this teaches us that he made an orchard and planted in many types of fine fruit trees to benefit the wayfarers. Rabbi Nehemiah said, and he built an inn for the wayfarers to lodge, for lodging, food, and drink. And he proclaimed the name of God, the God of the universe. Reish Lakish says, do not read it as proclaimed, because the Hebrew, that proclaimed is just a translation. But in the Hebrew, it can also be read as he caused to call. This teaches us that our forefather, which is Israel, the forefather of Israel, Abraham, called the name of the Holy One, blessed be he, to be called by the mouth of every passerby. How? After the wayfarers ate and drank, they stood up to bless Abraham. And he would say to them, was it then of my food that you ate? You ate from the food of the God of the universe. Rather, you should thank and praise and bless he who spoke and caused the universe to come into being. They would ask, what shall we say? He told them, blessed is the God of the universe from whose bounty we have eaten. And that is a very strong tradition in Israel on what we just read. Abraham, his tent was open to strangers. He would bring them in and he would feed them. He would take care of their needs. And when they would go to thank him, he would say, don't thank me, thank the God of the universe. Well, how do we thank the God of the universe? By saying, blessed is the God of the universe from whose bounty we have eaten. So Abraham taught all people to recognize in the call in the name of God, the God of the universe. Page 6. Like the orchard and the inn that Abraham established in Beersheba, this book sets out a spiritual and moral path for Gentiles, the non-Jews. desiring to become righteous in God's eyes. Again, like Noah. Noah found favor in God's eyes. What's the very next verse that God told Moses? Noah found favor in my eyes. And then verse 9 says this is how he found favor. He was a righteous man. He was a moral man. And he walked with me. And we learned at the very first thing where it says that this is the products of Noah, a righteous man. He was a product of himself, his character. Because of who he was as a man, personally, behind closed doors, he was righteous and moral. And this allowed him to walk with God. And so this book, as Rabbi Weiner has written here, it says is for the non-Jewish people desiring to become righteous in God's eyes and to have a closer and personal relationship with God, our Creator. The ability to achieve these goals requires access to knowledge of the character traits and attitudes that one should cultivate in order to advance in this path. By entering into the 7 gates that are explained in this book, it is possible for a person to reveal and nurture the image of God in which he was created. You will read many of times in the Torah and the prophets and also in the writings like Proverbs about the knowledge of God. And that is very important. You will not read about the belief and faith in God. You will read about the knowledge of God. In Proverbs chapter 2, it says that if you will seek it seek it like you're seeking money, as silver, and hunt for it like a hidden treasure, says you will find the knowledge of God in the fear of the Creator. You will find the knowledge of God. I believe that starts in around verse 5. Proverbs chapter 2, starting around verse 5 or so, somewhere in there. So the knowledge of God is very important because the knowledge of God will lead to the fear of the Creator, not the fear of trepidation, but the fear that will create within you an awe of your Creator that will allow you to walk with Him. And this path begins with the knowledge of God, learning what God wants us to know and how to live before Him. In response to one's own sincere efforts in this direction, he will be aided and blessed from the above to become a servant of God. Since more and more Gentiles are now searching for the spiritual truth and understanding and personal closeness to God, blessed be He, it is vital and imperative for this knowledge to be widely disseminated in the world. Now, there have been Gentiles throughout the ages. Generally, we're just a couple at a time. The prophets records, several. You have like Naaman in 2 Kings is an example of one of these. And you come on down through history, there's just been these spurts of the Gentiles coming to Israel and turning away from the idolatry and the pagan ways of the world and converting to the God of Israel, not converting to Israel, but to converting to the God of Israel. Now, there were some that went all the way, like Ruth went all the way and became what we would say today, became Jewish through a conversion that allowed her to marry into the family of Israel. But the Gentiles, we convert as well when we leave our pagan and wicked ways of idolatry and these things, and we come to the God of Israel and what He expects. The conversion just means change. You've changed. You are no longer, among the pagans. Now you're beginning that path of that righteous walk like Noah had. As evidenced by the various novel approaches to spirituality that have arisen in our modern internet age, it is inevitable that a person can miss the mark or even be misled if he does not evaluate the information he finds in the light of God's framework for a Gentile's pious behavior. That framework is the 7 commandments, or the 7 laws of Noah, or, for the children of Noah, which in Hebrew is Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, which are properly called the 7 Noahide laws. That's kind of a modern term, I guess you would call it. What I call it a modern, but it's been around for a long time. It's picked up as far as like many of the Gentiles turning back in, I think it was the 80s. There was a man, his name was Vendell Jones. He's kind of the father of the modern time of many people in the nations that are turning. He's kind of listed as the father. Get a chance to look up Vendell Jones and some of the history. I think it was in the 80s. Let's see, Rabbi Weiner, and see other works by Rabbi Weiner, the Sheva Mitzvahs Hashem, which is in Hebrew, and its English version, the Divine Code, fulfills this purpose, or is one of the books that's fulfilling this purpose. Rather, this book is intended to highlight many of the Torah's universal moral teachings. See, where the Divine Code is like I've said before, if you've been following us, it is kind of like a legal book. It's study of the commandments of God is through more of a legal way, the way you would study law, in the way things are written and what is being said. This book is dealing in the way of universal moral teachings. With this knowledge, a person can find the proper way to connect with and reveal the image of God that is within himself, and reveal the image of God that is within others as well. The present work was inspired by the book of Sefer Hamada, the book of knowledge, which I have here as part of the Mishneh Torah, by the great venerated Torah scholar Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, also known as Rambam. You've heard me read from his works before. Sefer Hamada is the first of the 14 volumes of his work called the Mishneh Torah, which is his monumental codification of all the oral law. In it, Maimonides explains that the Torah path to true and proper faith-based knowledge, the essential points of our present book, and indeed much of its text have been taken from Maimonides' holy words in Sefer Hamada. Beyond that, we have added the background information and explanations to produce a book meant specifically for the Gentile peoples who are and who want to become righteous in God's eyes. The reader should be aware that we have not even attempted to include every proper and righteous outlook or character trait and path in the life of Gentiles. However, in a general manner, this book presents the proper views and behaviors of a righteous person of any nationality and any culture. That's the preface. Okay, Scotty. This is pretty much the introduction. Next week we'll get
on it. I got more buttons to push over here.
Okay. Next week, I mean, actually, that was preface. We'll get into the book's introduction, the image of God within every person. We'll get into that next week. But I wanted to kind of cover a little bit about Noah tonight, right, his righteousness, and also the preface of this book and a few things that was said within it.
I think that was a great introduction. That's laying the groundwork for where this information has come from, and its background, and its veracity, everything about it. I think that really covered the introduction.
I know it's a little bit quick and probably a lot said. So, you know, we want to take some time to do some discussion here. You know, let's discuss what we've read and what we've learned.
Actually, the most thing that was said was, where can I get the book? Of course, I followed up by telling them that if they'll go to a Simple Walk and if they're in Tanach Fellowship, but most of these people, I don't know if they're in that, but they can go to a Simple Walk. And Amuela and Ronald has done a great job sharing the links, and you have shared the link as well.
And it's at Amazon. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it through AskNoah.com, places like that.
Yeah, so it's easy to obtain. And but now if you have a Kindle, you can get a Kindle version. That's what I was reading tonight, the Kindle version. And yeah.
Okay. And again, I recommend, you know, I think it's $20 if you've got it for the hard copy. It's well worth it, because I don't remember what the paperback was, but the paperback is just got a glued binding in it. And this is a book you're going to want to go back into many more times and read and meditate and think about, because this year, as you read it, you know, okay, next year because the things you go through in life will impact you more. And the hardback will be a really good addition for your library for years to come.
Right. All right. Well, Terry, I think you've covered it all great. So,
no questions.
No questions, just other than where do we get the book?
Okay. So did I go over anything any too quick or anything?
No. And I think the conversational question area about Noah, and of course, when you see the presentation of Noah without religious bias,
right,
or filters, it really makes a difference in your mind. A little more plainer. It really makes it a little more plainer. So you go,
Well, you got to look at it. Think about this. At the time of Noah, none of the religions of today existed.
Right.
So when you think about Noah today, you're looking at him through the filter of a religion. Some of them's not even 1,500 years old, 2,000 years old. You know, and you're filtering your thoughts about him through these religions that did not exist. Correct. That's why what we're talking about is not a religion. It is the oldest and primary monotheistic faith, if you want to put it that way, for the world. And this, when it says that the generation of the flood had corrupted its way, this is the way that we're talking that they corrupted. If they corrupted something, there was something there that wasn't corrupted.
Correct.
And so we are going back, and we're grabbing a hold of our human birthright to the uncorrupted way that was there before the flood, given to Adam through Noah. And then after the flood, Noah's son, it became Melchizedek, the righteous king, and he transferred this information to Abraham. It's all there in the history. And Abraham in Genesis 18 says that God knew him because he commanded his children and his household, not just his children, but his household, those that wasn't his children. And it says the way of God, tzedakah and mishpat, which is charity or righteousness and justice. And that's in Genesis 18, verse 19. And that is the way of God. And we're returning back to that. That's what we're going to be learning is learning to live the life that will take us back beyond before the flood, the way things should have been.
Right. All right, Terry. Well, it's 9:00 on the dot. So, and Veronica put up, let me see, she went over and found these books. The hardcover is 2015. I think.
Yeah, I knew it was around 20.
I think that's what she put on there. Thank you, Veronica, for sharing that. So, Thomas said, I don't see the hardcover. It is on there. You just have to kind of look. There's, but it is on there because I just hit that link and it took me straight.
How much is the Kindle version?
Okay, hold on just a minute.
I don't remember what it is. I've got it. I've got it, Kindle version.
$7 unless you belong to Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
Okay. $7.
Yeah, and if you belong to Kindle Unlimited, of course, it's $0.
Okay.
It's free.
Okay. All right. Let me get this out. I got some stuff come up here my way while I was clicking. So there you are. Hi, Terry. So hello, everybody.
Hello.
So, all right. Well, I guess we're going to come to a close. Terry, thank you so much for the introduction there. And let's see, I think actually Amuela also posted up the links there for all of them right there. So
I also want to, if I can, Scotty, before we leave, I want to make another. There's going to be some places in here, and I believe I heard that they may be making a second edition later on. There's a few things they've got to make some adjustments on. We need to understand that when we come to these areas, I'll show you where they're at. There's not very many, by the way. There's not very much at all, but there's areas where the Jewish culture kind of bleeds in, and in some area these, we don't have to go that far. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. And we have to look at the fact is that with the Jewish people, they were to be the lights for the world, the light of the world. Well, the world turned the light out.
Yeah.
A couple thousand years ago. And every time the Jews stuck their head out, everybody wanted to kill them, go all the way back to Haman and Esther wanted to destroy them. And then you come forward some 2,000 years later, the pogroms and everything that went on every time. So they withdrew into themselves and just taught themselves because the world didn't want the light and they turned the light out. But like I said, back around 1980 or so, the nations decided, hey, we need this light turned back on. And we have been flooding Israel, and it's new to them as well as it is to us. And so because they have been so withdrawn into themselves, which anybody would, if you were being attacked from all fronts, you'd circle your wagons, as we would say, in America. American Westerns, you would circle your wagons, and that's what they had to do for thousands of years. Well, they've been pulling the wagon train open just a little bit and letting us through and teaching us. And so there's a few areas we're going to come to in the book that's just still a little bit strong, more toward their culture than it is ours, but it's nothing wrong, nothing like badly wrong. And I'll share those things with you when we get to it. And you can, the things you can do, you do it yourself. But one of the things is the 7 laws fits every culture, every race, every culture, whether you're in Africa or whether you're in Ireland, whether you're in Sweden or you're in, Tulsa, Oklahoma, with your customs that are not wicked, that you have from your background of your peoples, these will fit, and they will cause you to help bring that culture to righteousness within that culture. So anyhow, so if you read something, if you get the books and read something ahead, and if you got questions, jot them down. We'll be glad to go through them as we go.
All right.
Go ahead, Scott.
All right, Terry, I'm going to go ahead and bring us to a close.
Man, that was awful quick.
It went by quick. It went by quick. We've actually been at it about an hour, so it did go by quick. So I'm looking forward to next week and start opening the gates.
We're going
to
talk about the image of God within each person, within you and within each person. That's a very important thing that a lesson that we need to learn.
Right. Right. All right, those of you that have been listening through Power Faith Radio, we want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And I have not heard from our two groups tonight. That don't mean they're not there. I just haven't heard, and I'm not getting a lot of chats coming through, so there might be a problem with the server on that. I'll find out more about that later. But we thank you for listening on Power Faith Radio. We had quite a few people watching through Simple Walk and B'nai Noach Fellowship Facebook pages. We thank you so much. Come on over and join the Simple Walk. It's a public group. B'nai Noach Fellowship is a private group. You have to ask to be joined in that. And then also you can know it's sponsored by Outreach Noah. You can see all the videos on Outreach Noah YouTube channel. And when you find it, subscribe, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and give us that thumbs up. You can also contact us by just going on over to our Facebook page, outreachnoah.com. Email us, outreachnoah@gmail.com. Did I get everything in there?
You mean our website?
Wait a minute. Website is outreachnoah.com.
Yes, not
Email
Facebook
address
page.
is outreachnoah@gmail.com.
I'm gonna have to stand up here with a. We get way too much. Kind of like they do in the old movies when we don't have a teleprompter, so we'll stand up here with.
Well, I actually have a teleprompter in my computer that I could turn on, but my problem is I had hooked on phonics and I can't read my own writing, so that's. That's a problem right there. Now, I just told my age when I said I had hooked on phonics in school. So I tell that to people today, and they say, "You had what?" So
it's easy. How many licks does it take to eat a lollipop?
3. So, all right, everybody, have a great week. Remember,
One last thing.
yes.
Where are you broadcasting from?
Broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee.
There
You're
you go.
listening to Power Faith Radio, and I'm going to tell you something. It's hot here. It just turned hot overnight. I don't know what happened, but it's supposed to move out, and we're going to have some pretty good weather. So, but that when I was growing up, they always had a saying, and I'm sure they say this about everywhere, but it just resonates with me here where I live. If you don't like the weather, hang around a couple hours. It will change. So I think they say that about everywhere.
Yeah.
So, all right, everybody. We'll see
Later.
you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.